Apple has officially confirmed Tim Cook will be stepping down as CEO of the company after 15 years since he took over from Steve Jobs back in 2011 at a time where nobody even believed he could ever fill those shoes. And the person taking over from him is this guy, John Ternus. If you've watched an Apple keynote in the past few years, then you've probably seen him. Calm voice, clean delivery, standing on stage most of the time introducing a new Mac, iPad, or iPhone. But behind that polished presentation is someone who may shape Apple's future in ways that no one ever alive has done before. For Apple, this is not just a leadership change, but rather choosing the kind of company it wants to be next. You see, for years, Tim Cook has been one of the most underestimated CEOs in modern tech history. When Steve Jobs passed away in 2011, a lot of critics said Apple was finished. Some even said innovation was dead, and some went ahead to say Tim Cook was just an operations guy who was going to run Apple as a company into the ground. But they were proven wrong because under Tim Cook, Apple didn't decline but it rather exploded heavily. Apple went on to become the first company to hit $1 trillion market valuation, then to a 2, a 3, a 4, and now sitting at a whopping $4.5 trillion market cap. And the iPhone remained one of the most dominant consumer products ever created in human history. The Apple Watch became the best-selling watch in the world, whilst the AirPod also went on to become a cultural phenomenon. And Apple's service business turned into a machine that prints billions annually. The thing is, Tim Cook did not just run Apple, but rather he turned it into an empire on its own. But now, he is living at a very interesting time because even though Apple has become more richer than it has ever been, the company has grown to an extent where it's becoming a little more predictable in its products lineup. The iPhone is still huge, but yearly upgrades are beginning to feel lesser. Apple Intelligence, however, entered the AI race later than most people expected, and the Apple Vision Pro. It is quite impressive, but too expensive and too niche for most people. And for the first time in years, this have led most people to start asking, what's Apple's next big thing? And that question now belongs to the next person, John Ternus. And by this time, I know most people will be asking, who is he? Who is he? Ternus is an engineer who joined Apple in 2001 and has over the years been rising through the hardware side of the company. He played a key role in Apple Silicon, the shift that gave Apple Macs a new life with the M-series chips, and he is someone who has played a major role in all the devices of Apple that people actually use and touch. So he is not that much of a new person in the company. And all that really matters because by choosing Ternus, Apple is secretly sending a message, and that is the era of managing growth may be over. And with that being done, the era of now reinventing the product is at hand. But make no mistake, because his job might actually be harder than that of Tim Cook's. Because you see, Cook inherited a company with the iPhone still climbing like a rocket, while Ternus is inheriting a company with tougher consumers, faster competition, AI pressure, global regulations, and a market that at the moment is very difficult to impress. Putting all that together, he now has 3 major challenges he needs to deal with. First is AI. He needs to make Siri better and Apple Intelligence more than just a late response to market competitors. Second is vision, because he would have to turn spatial computing from an expensive demo into something everyday people will actually want. The third one is identity, because he has to prove Apple can still create the future and not just polish the present. And that last one might actually be the hardest to achieve, because when a company grows to become this successful, their biggest risk is comfort, and that can be seen in safer upgrades, predictable launches, and playing defense. And you see, Apple has mastered the consistency game, and now they need to prove they can still surprise the world. And that is where the story gets interesting. Because this is not just one executive stepping aside, but rather this is a handoff from a CEO that perfected the business model of Apple to a CEO who now has the mandate to protect the soul of the company Apple. History will be kind to Tim Cook, and it should be, because this man took impossible expectations and somehow he managed to exceed them perfectly. But the next 5 years will determine something even bigger. And that is whether Apple still remains the most important tech company on the planet or not. You see, the Tim Cook era made Apple the biggest company ever, but the John Ternus era is set to make Apple feel ahead again. And honestly, that starts now. If you've watched this video this far, then please consider subscribing and leaving your thoughts in the comment section. See you in the next one. Peace.